Righty.
Vamos a proseguir después
Let's
de
resume
este bello momento
after
donde
this
nos hemos
beautiful
introducido en esa
moment
luz
where
camusiana,
we have
casi
seen some
viendo
of
a
the
Tipasa,
Camusian
para
light,
entender, ¿no?, esa necesidad
almost
de
feeling
juego,
being
de
in
volver a
Tipasa and
adentrarnos dentro de nosotros
feeling the
mismos, a buscar
need
ese
to
espacio
look
de
into
alegría de los que nos decía
ourselves
Cauter.
in
Para
this
mí es
quest
una
towards
alegría y sobre todo un
joyfulness.
gran honor de tener aquí a
To
Cristina,
me, it's a great joy
cuyo
and, above all,
universo
a great
creativo
honor
se
to
caracteriza sobre
welcome
todo por esa
Cristina,
fusión tan
whose
audaz de
visual
realidad y
universe
ficción,
is
que cuestiona
characterized by
siempre
this
la veracidad
fusion
del medio
between
con el que
reality and
trabaja, el medio
fiction.
fotográfico, unos proyectos donde podemos percibir, al igual que
Her
Camus, esa
projects,
exploración absurda de la condición humana y esa necesidad, al fin y al cabo, de encontrar
we
sentido
have the
a través
need
de la rebelión. Para mí, Cristina
to
utiliza la imagen, la
find.
fotografía para
She
revelarnos sus
uses image
contradicciones, las
photography to
ambigüedades de
reveal
la
her
realidad. Un
contradiction, the
trabajo que sin
ambiguity of
duda nos
reality.
invita siempre a
And
una
without a doubt,
contemplación
she
profunda
invites
de
us
esa
to
condición humana,
contemplate
pero sobre todo
profoundly
una búsqueda de
the
significado
nature of
en este mundo tan
humankind and
complejo y a
this
menudo
quest towards
contradictorio. Y con ella y
meaning.
con su gran trabajo os dejo
And with her
y a
great work,
disfrutarlo.
I leave you. You have the floor, Cristina. Let's enjoy.
Muchas gracias, Sandra. Muchas gracias por invitarme. Muchas gracias,
Thank you
Miquel.
very
Gracias
much,
a todos por
Sandra.
estar aquí, por aplaudir incluso antes de haber yo dicho nada.
Thank you very
Eso está muy
much
bien
for
así.
your applauses even before
La
I
verdad es
said
que
anything. It's a
escuchando
great sign. Well, the
bueno, la
truth is
anterior
that
conversación, me
listening
siento
to
como un
the previous
poco, igual un
conversation,
poquito
I
fuera de lugar, porque
feel
voy a
a little
aprender
bit
y voy a intentar
belittled,
llevaros a un punto
but I will
distinto,
try
a un sitio
to
en el que
accompany
reflexionar,
you
reflexionar un poco
somewhere
las
very
cosas, me voy a
different,
cuestionar
where
yo,
we
vais a
will
cuestionar
try to
vosotros
ask
y todo con un tono
ourselves to
bastante lúdico,
question
bastante
plenty of
superficial,
things in a
bastante...
very
O sea, no hace falta ni leer ni a Camus
superficial.
para
We don't
entender lo
even
que
need
yo voy
to
a decir.
read Camus to
Como modo de
understand what
introducción, pues siempre
I would
intento
like to share
justificarme.
with you.
Soy mujer,
Right.
nos han criado
I
así.
am a
Y
woman.
siempre pongo pues,
We
el
always
inicio de mi trabajo
justify
documental
ourselves. So
para
I
validarme.
always
O sea, lo que vais a ver a
explain
partir de
to
ahora
validate myself
sería
my
más cuestionable, pero si yo pongo ahora
documentary
estas fotos aquí, que son las
uh,
fotos que yo hacía al principio de mi
starting point,
carrera,
let's say. These are the
pues
images I
espero que
shot
lo
at the
tomáis más en serio.
beginning of
Son
my
fotos que
career.
hacía colaborando con
These
ONGs,
are photos that I did
con los
working with
rohingyas,
NGOs, with
con
the
orfanatos en
Rohingya
la India
people, with
y
some
ships con
orphanages
barcos
in
en
India,
Bangladesh,
people
porque
destroying
era un
ships
momento en
in
el que yo pues, era
Bangladesh,
bastante joven,
because
no
back
tan
then
joven,
I
pero sí que
was
creía que la fotografía era
younger
la
and I
herramienta que yo
thought
iba a
that
usar para
photography
cambiar el
was the
mundo.
tool that I was
Muy
going to be
romántica,
using to
porque creo
change
en
the
un montón de
world.
cosas
A very romantic
que
idea,
ahora
of
no
course,
creo.
but
Y
there are
estuve
plenty
10
of
años
things that I
trabajando en
don't
prensa,
believe in
10 años,
anymore. I
10 años
devoted a
trabajando, en fin,
decade
compaginando mi
working
trabajo en prensa
with
local, que además
media,
hacía aquí en las Baleares, en el diario
working
Ibiza,
here in the Balearics, in the
con,
Diario de
bueno,
Ibiza,
intentar acercarme a dramas de mayor
trying
envergadura
to
que la Liga
reach
Infantil de Baloncesto de la
dramas
isla de
of
Ibiza.
greater
Y bueno, pues mis
scope
fines de
than
semana y
local
mis
information. So
vacaciones, lo que
my
hacía era
weekends, my
contactar con Rosa,
holidays,
con
what I did was to
contactar
contact
con Médicos
the
Sin Fronteras
ICRC,
para poder
Doctors Without
visitar sitios para
Borders,
entender el mundo
etc.,
de
to
que
be able
venía y que mi
to
trabajo tuviese
travel
pues, un impacto
places, to
mayor
try to
que el
understand the
resultado de
world
la
so that
Liga
my work
Infantil
would
de
have a
Básquet
bigger
de Ibiza.
impact than the
De
Child
Ibiza me fui a
Basket
Alicante,
League
siempre
in
prensa local,
Ibiza.
y después de 10
Here,
años
I
de
left
prensa local,
the islands. I went to Alicante,
cuando
and
yo ya,
after
bueno,
10
tenía
years
mi
of
lenguaje, ya
local
sabía
press, when
expresarme con
I
todo
had
esto,
developed my own
me volví a
language, my own
dirección.
code,
Antes
I
de
felt
empezar con la
deceived
fotografía,
again.
mi interés por la
Before I
fotografía también venía de otra
started
decepción,
photography,
porque yo
my
estudié Bellas
interest
Artes,
came from a
después de estudiar
different
5 años
deception.
de Bellas
I
Artes, a mí me
studied
iba una galería de arte
arts,
contemporáneo
and I
impresionada.
used to go
Después
to a
venía
contemporary
el
gallery,
artista
and I
que
didn't
ponía algo
understand
así en la pared,
anything. So the
podéis
artist
imaginar
showing
mucho, por favor,
something on the
perdonadme,
wall.
¿no? Que
Please,
esto casi
I'm
me atora los nervios, pero
oversimplifying
yo iba a una
things.
galería y veía
But I
un
used to
palo
go to
blanco, una
these
pared
galleries and
blanca y
I
ponía el
saw
banco de
this
Europa y decía,
white
estoy diciendo, ¿qué
stick and
pasa?
it said, you're
Esa
being
falta de comunicación, es decir,
attacked. And
cuando
I
volvemos
didn't
a los
understand
inicios,
it.
donde nos
So this
explican
lack
quién
of
es el emisor, el
communication, when we
receptor,
go
el
back to the
mensaje, el
beginning, who
código, el
is the
contexto,
meter, the
a mí se
code,
me
the
perdía.
context,
Pero
the
este señor
receiver, I
artista que
got
viene a decir
lost.
algo de
This
Europa, yo
contemporary
veo un palo,
artist
no
wants
entiendo
to say
nada, pero
something
me
about
falta el
art,
código, el
about
emisor, el
Europe,
receptor, el
I don't get it. So what's wrong? The emitter, the receiver, the code? So after this frustration, I jumped into photography because everybody understands it. And I saw in it a tool that it would open doors. It gave me the excuse to visit the world and to feed and satisfy my curiosity because I'm always eager to learn. So I spent 10 years working with the media, different channels, and in the Levante, in Alicante, I lived the transition from written to the digital evolution, plenty of cases of corruption, and this had a direct impact because I spent my days in front of the police station waiting for a politician, or many of those being sent to jail back in 2010. So I asked myself, You want to change the world? And what the heck are you doing here for this guy covered with a hoodie to do a photograph? What are you doing, girl? You are exactly like the guy in Europe, in the white baton in the contemporary gallery. What's the point? So this point of no return, this photograph in the information diary, I went back with my scooter. I faced a traffic accident. Nobody died, but this car was hit by the bus. I parked my motorbike, I took the snapshot, and the girl driving says that the media is coming and she comes praying not to take the picture. And what do? I take the picture. To my surprise, I send it to imagine if things happened in Alicante. And it just so happens that it's on the main cover of the newspaper. I feel crap because I shouldn't have taken it. I was asked not to take it. And then a question lands, which is the one I'm trying to answer since back then. Why this picture made it to the main cover? Just an accident that was not serious because of this. Because it reproduced a cliche, a stereotype, a way of building and making a message that reverberated, that reminded something serious. A woman praying with this problem on her back reminds us of a tragedy. Here you have a selection of photographs that I'm taking. I am curating the exhibition of the 70th anniversary of World Photo. The man saving, the woman crying, the African person very close where you can see the texture of his skin, the crying baby. It's fascinating. I do recommend it wherever it'll be celebrated. I realized that the photography was not the tool I wanted to change the world. So, in order to change the world, I had to change photography. Something that was very important, not only the will to change photography, but also change myself, was to recognize that deep down, I didn't see myself as the person who had to explain others. No one had knighted me to say, hey, Cristina, go show the world what's going on. It was me. I wanted to add these limitations to understand the norms of the good journalist, but it wasn't enough when I went to India, or I didn't explain everything that I was experiencing back there. I needed to express that myriad of nuances. It was not only drama, humor, and absurd everywhere. Something that strikes us is not seriousness or drama. What really strikes us is absurdity, the lack of logic, lack of rigor. Nothing makes sense. Everything could happen right now. So I started to turn things upside down, and admit
la legitimidad para contar la verdad.
that I didn't have the legitimacy to explain the truth. I was not the chosen person, but I'm not someone who speaks this way. I don't give lessons. I don't blame others. I don't repeat the same thing over and over again. This is what media does, blaming others, looking for scapegoats without offering solutions. I preferred opinion articles, columns, rather than chronicles. So I connected with my own opinion and started valuing my opinion and trying to understand what I need to explain. I wanted to embrace the ironic person, the person who doesn't accept reality, who doesn't content with reality in order to start talking about it. So after I left the media channels, I started thinking about what had been the weaknesses where press or media channels had failed. For me, photojournalism and photography, how they have explained the African continent, not because I had read plenty of books, but the first time I went to Africa in Dakar, I expected something rudimentary. I expected some violence and fauna, but it wasn't like this. So I started thinking, how can we complete correct? Yes, correct. Somehow, the way that the mass media has been building stereotypes on specific areas like Africa or India. So, doing some research, always superficially, I learned the story of a spatial program in 1964 in Zambia, and I started learning more and more. I used my own incredulity or lack of I was the first one who didn't believe that was a real. I was skeptic. I thought it was Foncuberta's trick. How has he managed to publish this video on YouTube? But I learned that it was true. In 1964, Zambia had a spatial program led by a university professor who trained 10 university students, established and designed a rocket, and his plan was to reach to the moon and then Mars, to send 10 cats and show the Gospels. So it was the 60s, you know? So why this African aerospace program is so shocking? Because if it were to be a Danish one, it would be as impossible, surely, as a Zambian one. But I didn't believe the African one, and I do believe the Danish one. Why? I know it, of course, you know it too. So, what I did was to identify all the cliches, stereotypes that are repeating, and I still have in my visual imaginary saying Africa, and mixing these images with the ones that say space. I have not been in outer space, I haven't been in Africa, but I can imagine an African aerospatial program based on my stereotypes. So when I did fine arts, drawing, comic, cartoons, I did this Afro Notes series by mixing archives that I manipulated. 85% of these pictures have been done in Alicante, where I live just a few kilometers away from my parents' place. Spain is pretty similar to our African stereotype. I built a story because it's not only to add a series of cliches, you need a love story, something basic. I mixed up some pseudo images that look scientific that add this, this flash finger glove. The working title, you know, I come from 10 years of press. I've never published a book, and this is what I had. I worked with Laia Abril and Ramon Pez, who are great authors of photo books. Another of the recurrent stereotypes are violence. You know, the black man is always menacing. And in reality, my soldier doesn't even know that you're there. He ignores you. This was done in Madrid, the ways, the chaos. This is always related thanks to our abuse of Africa. And of course, I had to mix it with the space. I did this in Roswell many years ago that I found out, before I found out Roswell is where some people say an OVNI, a UFO, sorry, landed and the FBI did an autopsy in Area 51 or 52. This urban legend. So there is an alien museum there, and this is a diorama that represents the autopsy of that alleged alien. Actually, as an anecdote, when the book, it was a phenomenon, I was not expecting it. The Cursale, the publishing company, gave books to plenty of people. And when it came to Horacio Fernández, the great expert, one of the experts in photography in Spain, he was flipping some pages and he said, oh, they can't be. But when I saw that image, I said, wow, it's true. This picture is the one that Horacio Fernández actually believed that my version was the good one. As for the playfulness, I did not only remove my corset, you know, it was my motto of what you can do with a camera and with photography and the million ways of explaining our world. How I took this picture of this object floating and I turned it upside down. These are the cheapest sci-fi effects of the story of filmmaking. Imagine what AI could do. So Ofro Notes, my artisanal book, was a surprise. And the Africans never reached the moon, not yet. But this book actually launched me to the fame of opinion. I was invited to every single festivals on Afrofuturism. I didn't even knew this existed, so I had to quickly learn and get ready. And actually now, I believe this happened 12 years ago, 13, because I was the finalist this year again, thanks to an exhibition of the same award. I'm closing an important cycle, but practically speaking, what happened is that jumping from a local newspaper in Alicante, I was under the spotlight. She's been lucky, you know, the first book is the lucky one, but I did a second one, which was Crab, and I focused on the third one, which is this one.
So before leaving the newspaper, I had an existential crisis. And yeah, I love crises actually, because they made me visit places. And when you have nothing to lose, well, it's the best moment, because that's the time for you to connect. And then I decided to go to China, basically because it was far away and there was nobody there that I knew. So I spent 6 months living with Chinese families, and I understood not a single word of Chinese, but it was okay. And after that stay in China, I had to go back to London, and then there's Afronauts, and I have lots of pictures from China. And when I stayed in China, I removed all the modus operandi of the press that I had in my mind, and I started taking pictures, the pictures that I wanted. So I had the possibility to reconnect with the fact of having chosen a camera as a tool to express myself. So, well, I stayed in China for a long time, and I didn't understand the thing. My great conclusion about China is that this is a communist country, but it's not so much a communist country. So this was my conclusion. I could not write a lot about that, but after the success of Afronautas, everybody was looking for the second and third book from me. And everybody was expecting a book about China with all the materials that I had from China. And I took the protections from Mao, the Red Book of Mao, and this was in my father's library. And it was the English version. And the first page says the Communist Party, and there's a text by Mao. And the advantage of not being an English native is that you see the words and the meanings. If you read a Communist Party, you see two things in the word party. There's the political party, but there's party, as in parting. So this first page with the Communist Party, well, and the two meanings of the word party in English, well, they gave me really a lot of food for thought to talk about China. So I did something that is very Chinese, which is censorship, and I started censoring the Red Book of Mao. And I started rescuing and bringing to the surface some sentences that Mao had written, and sentences that would build up a kind of a manual on how to become a Chinese citizen. So the manual by Mao was for the 60s, but the one I propose is the contemporary one. So it's 400 pages with a lot of censorship, but where I rescue these kind of sentences. And sometimes they work better and sometimes they don't. But there are so many pages with these ideas. And somehow, it is a political book. Of course, it is a political book because I have been censoring the Red Book of Mao. But it is my most personal work because it talks about the end of utopia, and it talks about change, and it talks about the way to look things differently. So this is a book actually where I was very mad at men because I had been, so my partner had been unfaithful to me. So I was mad at men, and I could show this in my book actually. This is the layers and the nuances of pictures of photography. So the Red Book of Mao, it was quite a success, and there are not many left. And this is my favorite book. It's the favorite book that I have made, and I've made 13, 14. And now I'm going to go fast forward. We're going to skip many books. And we'll move to one of the last books that I have made, because, well, I think that it's important to talk about how, now we're laughing, but it's important to talk about how sense of humor and maybe a different look to things may help us think outside the box, but maybe not so much thinking outside the box, because if you think outside the box, there is a box, right? And what I like is the think outside part. So War is another topic that has been documented since the beginning of the history of photography. And since destiny wanted that I am now the member of an agency that was born with the distribution of war pictures, and in a few weeks I'm going to be president. I'm president of Magnum, and I've been present for 3 years. So to me, it was very important to understand what we think about war pictures, because I have lots of people around me that feel they are superior because they have seen the conflict. So, well, this project was created the year in which I was not voted for Magnum. Magnum is a kind of Masonic lodge in which you have to go through different stages. Normally it's 4 years and you have to work very hard. And after 4 years, if you have the right portfolio, you will become a member and a partner of the cooperative. And I didn't succeed because 1/4 of a vote, and it was quite frustrating. So I understood that I had to go to war, and so I did. I went to war with Lorenzo Malone, who's a photographer of war, and I thought, well, let's see if, I'm quite the experienced voice of Magnum, but let's see if we can work together, because I think that we can. So we went to Afghanistan, and I think the Taliban came to power in August 2021. All right, yeah, August 2021, and I went there in January 2022. So it was the time where the new Taliban government were doing everything that the journalists wanted. So it was quite a surreal moment. So the idea was to go to Afghanistan, bearing in mind that Afghanistan has been in the media for 40 years, and in spite of all, we know nothing about Afghanistan. We just know about burqas and wars and Talibans and goats and the desert. So the idea was to give the same kind of treatment that the New Yorker or any kind of magazine would give to Afghanistan. So we created the idea of the Kabuler. The Kabuler is the New Yorker of Afghanistan. So the Kabuler has got all the sections of any kind of magazine, like fashion, games, pastimes, sports, international, everything, like a normal magazine, like an ordinary magazine. So the idea here was to say, well, now Talibans are happy. So let's take pictures of cheerful Taliban. If they are happy, if they're cheerful, they're going to be cheerful for 6 months only, because then the situation will change. And that's what we did. We just took the moment to take their pictures. And then there's the idea of contrast. If we're talking about fashion, let's talk about fashion. And maybe some people say, oh, I think you crossed the line. But yeah, maybe I did cross the line. So the pictures were taken in Afghanistan, but then making the magazine took us 1.5 years, because if we wanted to compensate and if we wanted to really fulfill the mission that we wanted, we needed some serious information from people who can speak from their inner experience more than us, who only spent 1.5 months there. So we were talking with lots of witnesses, with lots of people. We interviewed, for example, gynecologists who were working in Afghanistan. We interviewed the last governor who decided to destroy the great Buddhas. So we made a real work of journalism there. Actually, that's what we did. And actually, you see, these are the sneakers that Talibans are wearing, for example. And this is a picture that we use for advertising a wedding salon. And these are the pages of the Kabuler, where you can find a little bit of everything. And the magazine is on sale, actually. And when Sandra invited me to talk about thinking in a different way and about something playful and about a sense of humor for things that may look very serious, one of the things that has really drawn my attention from Spain is nationalism. But not only in Spain, I'm quite not rooted anywhere, because my father was Belgian, but my mother was Andalusian, but then she was living in France. So anyway, we're not very much prone to roots. And I've always been stricken by, by the fact that nationalism can become something that makes people violent. So this is the idea of something that I find absurd, and but this is something with which I coexist very much. I live in Alicante, not far from Murcia, and there's a city who live in Alcantarilla. Alcantarilla in Spain means the sewage, right? So they live in a city called the sewage. So do they really feel proud of living in the sewage? And I mean, you can be proud of being in Spain because we know about the way of Saint James and everything. But we do not have any knowledge about the semantic meaning of these words, like, the sewage. So, and I decided to seek names of places that sound funny. And like, for example, names of animals. And I found the place of a place that is called Beginning. And then there I go through different places, and they have names of animals like a pig, a swine, wolf, and everything. And cats, and so on. Lizard. So after my safari, actually, there's also the route of terror, the route of love, the route of gastronomy, the route of anatomy, in which I will try to find words and names of cities and towns that correspond to all these ideas. Trouts here, trouts, chicken, sheep, goats. And this is part of the route of terror. The flame, the sadness, and then the voices, the moon. And then if you're in the mood for terror, then you find terror. If you are in the mood for safari, you find animals. And you can even build sentences. Cristina, wait for your fortune. And here I'm going to now smash you all with images, because, of course, all these projects are, they're very well built around an idea and everything, but sometimes I have ideas that just come out of the blue and that I want to materialize. For example, the Tower of Pisa. Things that I think should exist. Talking about animal mutations, these are things that, yeah, why not? Why not doing that? Clowns, I've always been interested in clowns and how people may be dressed up in a way that they make people laugh. So here, we're in Mexico, and this is a kind of OD of a clown. And this is the ghost rabbit. So this is part of different projects that are there in the air. Here, this is my dessert for emotional support, for indulgence. And then also pies. Pies are incredible. I think that pies and photography, nobody has written an essay on pies and photographies, because we all have a picture of ourselves with a pie, right? So we should write about this. So pies, I think, are interesting objects. And, well, this is borderline with, this is a project that I did in Poland. I spent 2 weeks there in a residence, and I was so tired when I got there that I didn't want to do that residence. And I talked to the organizers, and I thought, well, I'm going to do the residence, but I'm going to stay at the hotel for the entire stay. So I did the entire project without leaving my room in the hotel. And for example, one of the things that I had to do was I needed to find an albino person. And I found this person. And so what does the picture in the right mean? And I'm sorry, apologize already. And this is a picture of global warming, and then there are other serious topics. And this is a project that was exhibited in Arles, and it's part of the book for which I am a finalist for this award 12 years after Afronautas. So here I describe the path of travelers and migrants. In this case, they're heroes instead of criminals or victims or people who are fleeing away. So I have really borrowed the narrative structure of Jules Verne's book, The Trip to the Center of the Earth, because I want to make these migrants become heroes. So it depends very much on how you tell the story, because very often we're told about migrants so that they're going to generate sadness for us, or they're going to generate fear, but they're never pictured as heroes. And this is what I wanted to do. And they are leaving everything that is familiar to them, and they're going to undertake such a dangerous trip in order to end up working in unbearable conditions. So with the aim at really sending back money to their families. So I thought, well, I'm going to a place in order to give money to the family. So to me, this is a very noble gesture. It's really very noble. It shouldn't generate fear or mercy or anything. But anyway, here, there's a mixture of what we find. This is what I do. I talked to migrants, I interviewed them, and I asked them to collaborate and to play together. Actually, this is something playful. Actually, we talk about each other's situation. Here, we're just chatting. We're chatting next to the wall in Tijuana, and I told her, you know, I'm narrating this kind of story, so would you like to be part of it? So here we invent a kind of game that, you know, is not ruled with the same rules as many other games. And this is the kind of understanding that I have of games, of being playful, and that's why I think it's so important, and I think that we should all make an active exercise to recover that, because we do have a lot of power, you know, and a child may take this and say, oh, look, this is an aircraft, or this is a spaceship, or this is a shovel, you know, whereas you have the power to decide what things are and what their function is and what their meaning is. And then at school, they're going to tell you, no, this is not a rocket, this is a boat. And I think that this is the kind of thought that makes us unravel and makes us escape the problems that we have and that asphyxiate us. And actually, if we have a proper look around us, there are many things around us that are there. And this is Cartagena, and this is what I've seen. And this is a cat that was left next to a place where it says, be careful of the dog. I mean, the reality is full of things that are totally different. And this is a priest taking a picture of the sky. So it has a different meaning. I mean, this is to get the evidence of the existence of God. You're going to take a picture of the sky. And so this is actually in Spain. This is a boar that is a hare that is a hunter, actually. And, you know, there's so many things that, you know, if you really take the picture and you really try to avoid always giving a meaning and trying to find an order and expecting things, then you're going to find the unexpected. And here are some more pictures. And
if you let
actually,
me.
well, you know, this is very important. It's very important to play, and playing is nice. And I want people to understand what games are, and we can do lots of things.
This is where the solution will be when we allow ourselves to think far beyond any single norm that we self-impose. And this has been assimilated to competition. Football is a game, right? But whoever wins, I don't mind. If I like playing, I like to see those men in shorts. We're not talking about the game, we're talking about goals and who has won. Sports commentators only talk about money and winning. So, talking about football precisely, I can't remember when exactly, in 1918, or actually FC Barcelona. I'm a Madrid fan, but my mom had to go to the ceremony. But they gave me plenty of money because it was an award. I only did it once, 1 year, and it was on sports. And I remember I sent a proposal called Variations on the Podium. So it was about analyzing, rethinking the podium because it has as an object plenty of meaning. So here, reinventing this podium, a mathematically correct podium, a different one. I was working with a carpenter. This is the champion podium. And then some of the things that I wanted to do poetically was to go to a trophy shop and actually ask for one, pay for it, and never go pick it up. This is your idea. I share it with you. Some other forms of podiums and different interpretations of the same concept. The weight of competition, a cake, of course. And as we're talking about games and winning, I would love to suggest all of you, in order to finish my intervention, a game. So please stay with me. Give me a sec. Please, could you give everybody a ticket? Right, another coupon for the winner. Whenever you're ready and you have your carton, your number, let me know, okay? Just embrace the no analysis. Don't think too much about it. I need to say that there are some people addicted to game, and bingo has been present throughout my childhood. My grandma was widowed at 40. My grandpa was a member of the army, so they had a good pension, so they lived with us.
bingo.
and you know that your taxes
Y
have
dentro
been
de las
spent
cosas
by
que hay
my
que normalizar, a mí el bingo me
grandpa
trae
at the
muchísimos
bingo.
recuerdos y me
And
parece un
if we
juego
want to
increíble
normalize it,
y
it's a horrible
fascinante al mismo
game,
tiempo,
but
¿no?
it's
Entonces
fascinating at
quería
the same time.
proponeros de
So I
jugar
wanted
una
to
partida
suggest
juntos.
you to play
Lo he adaptado un poco, lo he
once
tuneado
together. I have adapted
para
it. It's been
quitarle la parte del bingo que no me
fine-tuned
gusta, ¿vale?
to remove the
Entonces,
part
cuando estáis todos
of
listos, voy a pedir silencio en la
addicted
sala
gambling that I
y
don't
la
like.
partida
So whenever
va a
you're
comenzar.
ready, please, let's begin.
¿Todos listos?
Everybody ready?
El 18.
18.
Quien cante línea, la
Whoever
línea,
sings the line should
¿vale?
raise the hand and shout line.
18.
18.
18, 36, 36.
18.
Oui,
36.
¿en francés? En español. Bueno, que no haya jugado al bingo.
In Spanish. Okay. For those of you who have never played
Silencio.
bingo,
¿No has
please
jugado al bingo nunca?
silence.
Qué fuerte.
You've never played this game? Really?
Hay que
Wow.
tachar los números que salen.
You gotta cross the
Cuando
numbers
completas
that
una
you will
línea,
listen
cantas
whenever you complete a
línea
line, you sing
y
line.
continuamos. Y
And then
cuando
we
completes
continue.
todos los
And
números,
whenever you
hay que
complete
cantar
all of your
bingo,
numbers, you gotta
¿vale?
sing
Y te llevas un
bingo.
premio,
Correct? And you get a
¿ok?
prize. Ready?
No, hemos hecho solo el 18 y ahora
We've done
el
18
36, 36.
and now 36.
45, 45.
45.
Eh, 49, 49.
49.
61, 61.
61.
¿No está? ¿El 19?
19.
90, 90.
90.
Está bien, no pasa nada. No pasa
It's
nada.
okay.
Es un juego, es el juego.
This is a game.
Voy a coger otro, que este no sé si es para uno o para otro. 34,
Sorry.
34.
34.
22, 22.
22.
26, 26.
26.
Oh. 3, 3.
3.
56, 56.
56.
Oh. ¿Alguien ha hecho línea?
Someone said line? No?
83, 83.
83.
En los bingos no dejan hablar, ¿eh? 15, 15.
15.
¡Eh!
Yeah.
¿Continuamos para bingo?
Let's continue up till we
Vale,
get a
continuamos
bingo.
para bingo.
Shall we? You want to?
67, 67.
67. 67.
1.
1.
16, 16.
16.
29, 29.
29.
Solo el primero. El 6.
6.
92.
92.
72. 62.
72.
7.
7.
33.
33.
47.
47.
74.
74.
64. 53. 53.
53.
¿Línea? ¿Más
53.
líneas?
More lines?
Bueno. ¿Qué
Good,
bingo
good.
ese?
What a bingo.
No sabemos este todavía.
We don't know that one yet.
Sí, ya sé cuál es. 89, 89.
89. 89.
69,
69, 69,
81,
81,
18.
81, 18,
¿Ya lo he dicho?
18,
El 5,
5,
no voy a hacer la broma. Y el 51.
51. Yay!
Enhorabuena a los premiados.
Congratulations to
Acabáis
the
de ganar un
winners.
cartón de bingo.
You have won a carton, a bingo little card.